Saw a great question online. By the way, if you want to join the basement or Facebook group and talk to the hive mind, a lot of our stackers happy to help you and kind of talk through some issues. stackingbenjamins.com/basement is the short link to get you there. That's a link that will automatically connect you with the Facebook page. But this one comes to us from David. David writes, "Hello, Hive Mind. I'm looking for some creative ideas to replace my mother's income. She's been installing flooring for the past decade with my father, but just tore her knee and is scheduled for surgery. She lives in a small town in northern Nebraska, and I know for a fact wouldn't be satisfied with the daily desk service job. I'm open to any ideas at this point. Has anyone else been through this with a parent in need of a career change later in life?" Oh, gee, this is an issue that I wanted to bring up, not just because of the career change aspect, but this idea of a career change later in life can be very frustrating. Like if you're in your late 50s and suddenly you need to do something different, it's a pretty scary time to try to go get another job.
Yeah, different to get a job than a career, and we do see that there's a lot of changes that happen over your lifetime. It used to be, you start working at one place and you work there for 40 years or whatever, but now you're seeing lots of different shifts along the way. I think a lot of this has to do with perspective as it relates to what the beginning is, what the middle is, and what the end is. You say like, "Oh, I'm in my late 50s. Oh, I'm in my late 50s." Like that implies that the end is near. So I'm too old to make a career change, right? There's lots of people who work in their 60s and 70s and even 80s. We see a lot of actors, and you see a lot of business owners. And I was just talking to an attorney friend of mine who said that he's working on a case with an 86-year-old attorney. And I said, "Oh, the 86-year-old's your client?" He goes, "No, he's the attorney that I'm working with." So there's it.
I know a guy who just passed away in his 90s, still working 2 days a week as a doctor.
After he died?
No, before he died.
You couldn't tell the difference.
That is a motivated dude.
You couldn't tell. They just propped him up in the corner.
They figured out to practice, you just wheel this guy in and he looks the same as he did a couple days ago. Just have somebody stand behind him and talk like him, and you're good.
Sorry to hear about that. If that's who I think
it's like
it
Weekend
is.
at Bernie's. Remember that old movie?
Yeah, he was our kid's doctor for a while. So,
fantastic, gentlemen.
But anyways, so I think you just have to reframe that reframe the time frame, I guess, is a way to put it, and say, well, so what? So you're 50, who cares? 55, who cares? Do something different. There's no expiration date unless you want one.
I think, but what do you do when you've been doing things like installing floors and now you've got knee problems, OG? She's got to think really differently now about her career change.
Well, maybe. What about teaching people how to install floors? What about kind of being the train the trainer type person? Why can't she be the person who is the expert that has everybody else? You could still be in that same industry, right? Knows everything about it. Maybe now can sell the flooring that somebody else installs, or there's lots of different corollary type of businesses that go in with any other business, right? Just because you're an expert at this, that probably gives you a lot of credibility in all these other areas as well.
Yeah. Do you think it's though also a time when she could just make a big pivot if she's wanted to during her life? Is this an okay time to make that kind of a big move?
100%. Every time is the best time to do that. If you need the motivation and you can't do the thing that you're doing anymore, now's a perfect time. But I think that's true for anybody, anytime. Why would you wait? You know what I mean? Like if nothing else over the last 2.5 years, like why would you wait to do anything? Just do it.
Best time to plant a tree was yesterday. Right?
And I'm
having best day is today.
Yeah.
10 years ago and today, but okay.
I think that I'm having two competing thoughts. Thought number one, OG, is you and I have been around people before where they say, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. And in your back of your mind, you're going, yeah, that's not going to work. There is no way in hell that's going to work. And you think, you know what, you need to do just a little bit of online research and maybe apply a little bit of math before you do this, before you just jump into this new thing, or look at what what people in that industry are talking about. Maybe even talk to a few people before you start. Cause I can't think of the number of times where I'm like, oh, that's a bad idea. And I think every time I've had that thought, it hasn't ended well. Not that I'm a Nostradamus, but much more like this was such a bad idea that they never should have done it in the first place. But then in other cases, I think about people that have had really good ideas and didn't have a sufficient emergency fund to get them through that rough patch when they first start out, right? Maybe there's some training they need to take, or they're going to work for themselves now. And having that business plan and emergency fund, I think, are super important. But on the other side, I'm with you. If you're going to make the pivot, do it now, I think, with those couple caveats.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you need the motivation, this is the sign, right? It's like that. I saw, I don't know, it was a TikTok video or YouTube something. It said like, "Lord, give me a sign," and the like bus ran off the road and hit the street sign, and the street sign fell onto the person. It's like sometimes you need that like thing. You know what I mean? So you got it. Go do it. Go do your thing.
Somebody looking for some inspiration, one of my favorite podcasts is by a good friend of ours, Nick Loper, Side Hustle Nation, where he talks about all these crazy side hustles. We've also had Nick on the show a couple times talking about some of the ideas out there. There's plenty of ways to make money, and in our show notes page, we'll link to Side Hustle Nation as well. Nick's a good dude. Won a Plutus Award for his show and has had a couple books, I think, on the topic of side hustles. All right. Thanks for the question, David.